Joe Flacco showing up in a Bengals uniform wasn't on anyone's bingo card. And that surprise could be what makes the upcoming Steelers-Bengals matchup so unpredictable. The Bengals, suddenly retooled with a veteran presence under center, now present a far more complex challenge for Pittsburgh's defense. Flacco brings experience, poise, and a working knowledge of a division rival system. Whether he starts or simply mentors, his presence elevates the Bengals' threat level. And it all comes thanks to a decision from within the division.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
Courtesy of the Cleveland Browns. That internal division trade not only complicates competitive balance, but also forces every AFC North team to re-examine how they handle their assets. The Browns prioritized evaluation over wins, opting to see what they have in their young QBs rather than hold on to a stabilizing presence like Flacco. That philosophical divide is playing out in real time. As the Steelers keep stacking wins, their rivals are taking strategic detours that could cost them more than just this season. Things in the AFC North are getting messier by the minute. The Steelers didn't just beat the Browns, they stomped them 23-9. In a win that now feels even more significant after what came next. Because somehow, in the middle of a tight division race, the Browns made a move that raised every eyebrow in the building. They traded Joe Flacco. Not to some out-of-conference team, not to a bottom feeder looking to patch a roster hole, but to the Cincinnati Bengals. A direct rival. A team that, like Cleveland, is trying to claw its way through one of the most competitive divisions in football. The trade sent waves through the league, and Mike Tomlin was quick to add his voice to the reaction. As the head coach of a Steelers team that now sits at 4-1 and leads the AFC North, Tomlin had every reason to be watching the chessboard carefully. But this? Trading a quarterback you trusted to start on opening day to a team you have to face again? Tomlin didn't hold back. He questioned the logic, the strategy, and the timing. Because you don't help a division rival unless you're no longer thinking about the present. And that's exactly what the Browns just admitted to, without saying a word. Stephen A. Smith didn't hold back either. On air, he pointed to the obvious. This trade doesn't make sense if your goal is to win now. The only thing it signals is that Cleveland has shifted its priorities. They're no longer aiming for immediate division dominance. They're focused on evaluation. Specifically, evaluating their young quarterbacks, which in a vacuum is understandable. But when you're still in the playoff picture, still pulling out close wins, that shift is jarring. This isn't about whether Flacco was playing at a Pro Bowl level. It's about what he represented. Stability, experience, a proven ability to manage games. In a division full of chaotic defenses and unpredictable matchups, having someone who can run the offense and not implode matters. Flacco brought that. And now he's bringing it to Cincinnati. That's what makes the whole thing so unusual. The Browns had a quarterback they considered valuable enough to start. They had a defense that was keeping them alive in games. They had special teams that were bailing them out when needed. And instead of building on that, developing around it, they let it go to a team that could use it against them. This isn't speculation. It's all laid bare in the reactions from inside the league. From Tomlin's skepticism to Stephen A.'s full-throated takedown, the message is the same. The Browns are playing a long game in a short game situation. And the cost could be their season. Pittsburgh, on the other hand, has no such identity crisis. They're winning with discipline, coaching, and capitalizing on the mistakes of others. They're not blowing teams out. They're not dominating every stat category. But they're executing. And now, with the Bengals next on their schedule, they're walking into a matchup where Cincinnati just added a veteran quarterback who not long ago was wearing a Browns jersey. It's the kind of scenario that forces you to wonder, did Cleveland just hand Cincinnati the very piece that could make them dangerous again? Flacco doesn't need to be great. He just needs to be good enough. Good enough to get the ball to weapons. Good enough to avoid disasters. Good enough to help a Bengals team that was clearly missing steady quarterback play. And if he is, the Browns not only weaken themselves, they strengthen someone else. someone with just as much to gain in this division race. From an asset management perspective, the Browns will argue this was the right move. They're not thinking short-term. They're looking down the road, trying to figure out what they have in the quarterback room. That's a valid approach in the off-season. But we're not in March. We're in October, when games count, when teams separate, when every mistake is magnified. So while Cleveland looks toward 2025, Pittsburgh is staring down 2024 playoff seeding. That's the difference. That's what Tomlin was highlighting. In this league, you don't give away leverage to a team in your division, especially not at quarterback. The Browns' approach may be common in franchises focused on rebuilding. But this wasn't a rebuild scenario. This was a team winning close games, with room to grow, and a chance to build momentum. Instead, they pivoted midstream. And now, they're hoping their young quarterbacks can deliver results while the pressure only increases. Quarterback instability is one thing. Instability you create for yourself is another. That's where the Browns are right now. They created void. They introduced volatility into a situation that, if not perfect, was at least functional. And now they're betting it pays off. It's a move that cuts against the grain of what we're seeing elsewhere in the league. Around the NFL, teams like the Chiefs and Colts are rising in the power rankings. Each of them, in their own way, embody the importance of flexibility, but also decisiveness. They're making moves that serve both short-term goals and long-term structure. Meanwhile, Cleveland has picked one side of that equation and walked away from the other. There's a word for that, gamble. And it's not one that seems aligned with how the rest of the AFC North is operating. Especially not Pittsburgh. The Steelers are proving what consistent coaching and roster discipline can do. Tomlin's not chasing headlines. He's not trying to find the guy at quarterback mid-season. He's letting the rest of the division self-destruct while he quietly builds wins. And with Cleveland focused on development and Cincinnati scrambling to integrate Flacco, the window is wide open. What's also worth watching is how this trade impacts game prep. Tomlin brought it up for a reason. Preparing for the Bengals just got more complicated. Instead of facing a backup or an inexperienced arm, you're looking at a quarterback who knows how to run an offense and who just came from a division opponent. The mental edge swings in Cincinnati's favor, even if the execution still has to catch up. It's a strategic blunder that doesn't show up on tape, but absolutely shows up on the field. There's still time for the Browns to recover. Their defense is resilient. Their special teams are dependable. But they've now added pressure to a quarterback room that wasn't asking for it. And every time Flacco throws a touchdown in orange and black, that pressure builds. Because it won't just be about what their young QBs can or can't do. It'll be about what they let walk out the door. The NFL doesn't reward indecision. It punishes it. And in a division where the margins are this tight, the Browns may have made the one move that changes everything. So here we are. The Steelers are locked in. The Bengals are loading up. The Browns are rebooting. And the rest of the league is watching, waiting to see who seizes the moment and who gives it away. If you're following the madness, like the video, hit that subscribe so you're ready for the next twist, and drop your take below. Did the Browns just throw away the season? Or are they playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers? Because this trade, it might just be the turning point in the entire AFC North. Let's go all in, because this situation in the AFC North is still unfolding. And if you think the Joe Flacco trade was just a quiet, behind-the-scenes roster move, you're not paying attention. This isn't a mid-tier quarterback finding a new home. This is division warfare. This is one team giving a rival ammunition in the middle of a gunfight. Let's be real. When the Browns shipped Joe Flacco to the Bengals, they didn't just make a trade. They made a statement. That statement? We're not playing for now. And in the NFL, that's dangerous. Especially when you're in a division where the Steelers are already steamrolling opponents and sitting at 4-1. Especially when every game you play can determine not just your playoff spot, but your relevance. This isn't the NFC South. This is the AFC North, where every team is clawing for inches and looking for the slightest edge. So yeah, Mike Tomlin had every right to be skeptical. He's preparing for a crucial matchup with the Bengals, A team now potentially led by a quarterback who just had access to the Browns' playbook, locker room, and system. And while Flacco might not be elite anymore, that kind of inside intel is valuable. It complicates game planning. It adds layers of unpredictability. And it's the exact kind of thing that frustrates coaches who are trying to keep their own teams on track. Let's not downplay how rare this kind of move is. Teams in the same division don't just hand over starting caliber quarterbacks. It's not protocol. It's not strategy. It's a kind of decision that leaves everyone else questioning the bigger picture. And Stephen A. Smith, per usual, didn't miss a beat. He called out the absurdity of it right away, pointing out what the rest of us are thinking. If the Browns signed Flacco to start and trusted him to take first-team reps, then why flip that decision before Halloween? This isn't preseason. This isn't tank mode. The Browns are in it. Or were. Because now, they've decided to pivot toward developing their young quarterbacks, with the logic being long-term sustainability over short-term wins. On paper, it's a noble move. In execution, though, it reeks of organizational confusion. How do you go from win now to maybe later in the middle of a 4-2 start? Meanwhile, across the field, the Steelers aren't playing around. They're not guessing. They're not reevaluating. They're executing. They're leading the division not by luck, but by playing smart football, minimizing mistakes, maximizing defensive pressure, and letting the rest of the division tear itself apart with questionable decisions. The Steelers didn't come into this season as media darlings. But 5 games in, they've made it clear they're not here to rebuild. They're here to take the AFC North. And with the Browns backpedaling and the Bengals in transition, the path just got smoother. Let's talk about the Bengals for a second. They've been inconsistent at best, but they're not out of the fight. Far from it. And now, they've been handed a quarterback who, even if he's not going to throw for 300 yards a game, knows how to survive. Joe Flacco doesn't panic. He doesn't throw rookie-level interceptions. He knows how to eat clock, convert on third down, and throw the ball away when needed. That's the kind of presence that helps stabilize a struggling team. And Cincinnati just got that for cheap, thanks to the Browns. That's why this trade is about more than just roster depth. It's about competitive balance. And the Browns just tilted it the wrong way. The logic behind the move is based in asset management. And yes, we all get it. NFL teams are constantly evaluating talent, flipping veteran players for picks or developmental reps. But timing matters. Context matters. This wasn't the right time. And the context? It's disastrous. Because this isn't the off-season. This isn't some rebuilding franchise trying to tank for a top draft pick. The Browns were winning. They were competing. And in the AFC, where even 10-7 doesn't guarantee you a wild card spot, this kind of self-inflicted instability can unravel a whole season. Not to mention what this does to the locker room. Veterans play for now. They want wins. They want playoff shots. And when the front office essentially says, let's see what the rookie can do, it undercuts everything those vets are working for. That tension isn't just hypothetical. It shows up in effort, in sideline body language, in fractured team identity. Meanwhile, teams like the Colts and Chiefs are gaining steam. Power rankings are shifting every week. Nobody has a lock on the AFC yet, which makes it even more painful that Cleveland seems to be stepping back when the rest of the conference is stepping forward. You want to talk about missed opportunity? This is it. Because this division is tight. The Ravens, Bengals, Browns, and Steelers all have the talent to make noise. But it's the teams that avoid missteps, the ones that don't take unnecessary risks mid-season, that survive. And Pittsburgh is thriving right now because they're not chasing storylines. They're winning ugly. They're grinding games out. They're making the right decisions week after week. That 23-9 win over Cleveland wasn't just a victory. It was a tone setter. It told the league, this team is for real. And when their rivals are busy making headlines for trades that make no sense, the Steelers are focused on the only stat that matters: wins. Even more frustrating is how the Browns have played in close games. They've found ways to win despite adversity. Their defense is clutch. Their special teams are disciplined. They've been in every game. And yet, the front office decided that wasn't enough. They're betting on potential instead of production. That strategy might work in college football. It might make sense during training camp. But in a live playoff race, it's a high-risk, low-reward move. Because unless those young quarterbacks catch fire, and fast, the Browns could go from 4 to 2 out of the conversation by Thanksgiving. And the worst part? It didn't have to be this way. They had a quarterback. He was working. He wasn't lighting it up, but he was holding it down. He was a bridge. And they burned the bridge before crossing it. Now, the Browns have put themselves in a spot where their young quarterbacks have no room for error. Every bad throw, every missed read, it'll be magnified. Because now people know what the Browns gave up. And they know who they gave it to. If the Bengals start trending up and the Browns stumble, this trade won't just be questioned. It'll be remembered. Meanwhile, the Steelers are locked in. They're not relying on explosive offense or hoping for some mid-season miracle. They're doing what winning teams do, staying consistent, sticking to identity, and avoiding headlines. Let the rest of the division fight amongst themselves. Pittsburgh just added another win to the column and moved forward. It's only week 6, but this Flacco deal already feels like a turning point. One of those moments you look back on in December and say, that's where it all started. Whether it's Cincinnati's rise or Cleveland's fall, it all leads back to this trade. A veteran quarterback, a division rival, and a team that blinked when it didn't need to. That's the drama. That's the NFL. So far, we've got a few facts. The Steelers are on a roll. They're 4-1, grinding out wins, staying disciplined, and capitalizing on every misstep their rivals make. The Browns just handed a division opponent a functioning veteran quarterback and said, we're good. And the Bengals, formerly limping through the first few weeks, now have a lifeline. Not a superstar, but a reliable veteran presence in Joe Flacco who brings something that's been missing from their locker room: stability. And we're supposed to pretend that's normal? Let's be clear. This is not a normal move. This is not how division races are usually handled. In a league where teams hoard information, protect game plans, and treat division matchups like playoff games, handing over a quarterback who literally started your season is one of the most bizarre mid-season choices we've seen in a while. But what makes it worse is the timing. Because this wasn't done in the aftermath of a blowout loss. This wasn't a move born out of desperation. The Browns were still in the mix. They'd been winning ugly, but they were winning. Their defense was bending but not breaking. Their special teams were keeping them alive. And Flacco, while not spectacular, gave them competence, experience, control. And then he was gone. To a team that still has a shot. A team you'll probably be fighting for wild card positioning with. Or worse, division positioning. And you know what that says to your locker room, to your fan base? It says we're more interested in developing guys than competing right now. It says, let's take a step back, even if that means someone else steps forward. That might fly in other divisions. But in the AFC North, that's a death sentence. Because this isn't a division where you can coast through 1 or 2 games and still land in the playoffs. Every inch is earned. Every win matters. Every roster decision is scrutinized. And what Cleveland just did isn't being viewed as smart asset management. It's being viewed as surrender. Meanwhile, Mike Tomlin is somewhere shaking his head, prepping his game plan for the Bengals, and laughing, quietly, respectfully, but knowingly. Because he's been in this game long enough to understand what just happened. He knows when a team is drifting. And he knows that now his Steelers are in position to pull away. They're not making flashy headlines. They're not throwing 5 touchdown games. But they're doing the thing every contender does, staying consistent while the rest of the division eats itself. That's what separates the Steelers from the Browns right now. One team is focused. The other is figuring it out in the middle of the season. And let's talk about that quarterback room in Cleveland. It's not like there's a breakout star just waiting to take over. It's young talent, unproven, inconsistent, full of potential. But potential is a dangerous thing to gamble on when you're still in contention. The moment you decide to see what they've got, you also decide to live with the growing pains, the bad reads, the missed blitz pickups, the 3-and-outs. You know what Flacco didn't give you? That. And now, he's giving that same stability to the Bengals. This is what makes it so frustrating for Browns fans, and honestly, for anyone watching this division play out. Because Cleveland was close. Not perfect, but close. And instead of reinforcing the roster, they sent out a core piece and destabilized their entire operation. It's not about whether Flacco was going to win you the Super Bowl. It's about what he meant to this team, right now, in this division. That's what makes the trade a gut punch. And for Cincinnati, this is a get-out-of-jail-free card. Whether Flacco starts or not, they've now got a backup plan that isn't a liability. They've got someone who knows the system, or at least one very similar. Someone who's seen every blitz look, every coverage disguise, every trap that AFC defenses love to throw. And that matters, especially late in the season. The real test now? What happens when the Browns drop a couple games? When those young quarterbacks struggle? When the offense can't convert on third down, and the defense starts to wear down from being on the field too long? Because you can't ask the defense to do everything. You can't hope for your special teams to bail you out forever. At some point, you need your offense to manage a game. And the Browns just gave up the guy who could do that, reliably, consistently, and without drama. It's a kind of decision that creates regret fast in this league. Meanwhile, the conversation around power rankings is shifting weekly. Everyone's trying to figure out who's real. The Chiefs are still in the mix. The Colts are making noise. The league is wide open. And if the Browns had kept things steady, they'd still be part of that conversation. Instead, they're gambling on the unknown. And that's not even the part that stings the most. The real sting? It's who they gave him to. Because if Joe Flacco has even one good game against an AFC North opponent, if he wins one game in a Bengals jersey that shifts the standings, the Browns will feel it tenfold. Every throw he makes, every third down he converts, every time he calmly controls the pace of a game, it's going to sting. And it's going to be replayed over and over again. Because the Browns didn't have to do this. They chose it. And now the rest of the division is adjusting. The Steelers are already surging. The Bengals are retooling. And the Browns? They're testing, tinkering, hoping. This league doesn't reward hope. It rewards execution. So the question now isn't whether the trade made sense in a vacuum. It's whether the Browns are built to handle the fallout. Because if they're not just going to lose games. They're going to lose trust. In the locker room, in the fan base, and in the idea that they know what they're doing. Meanwhile, Pittsburgh? Business as usual. Tomlin's going to keep doing what he always does, finding a way to win. He'll take the ugly wins. He'll take the field goals. He'll take the defensive stands. Because in the AFC North, pretty doesn't matter. Wins do. And now he's got two rivals in transition. A golden opportunity. And you'd better believe he's going to take it. If you're still riding the AFC North roller coaster, hit that like button, subscribe for more breakdowns just like this, and sound off in the comments. Did the Browns just sabotage their own season? Or are they playing the long game in a league that doesn't wait? Because whether this trade turns out to be genius or disaster, it's already one thing for sure: unforgettable.